Good afternoon. I have some good news and bad news. The bad news is we're all going to die sooner than you think. The good news is we actually might have a chance to survive. Well, don't be surprised. This has been a long time coming. I mean, have you not noticed our homes getting hotter every year? Or natural disasters occurring every other week somewhere? Aren't you a little surprised that the Earth is becoming more volatile every day? Look closer to home. Don't you think typhoons are getting increasingly more powerful over the years and they come one after another? The thing is, we really don't need to wait for our health to deteriorate anymore. The Earth is dying on its own, and we'll be along with that ride if we're not careful. I can see you're wondering, how's this happening? Well, I'm sure global warming is not something new to you all, and this is exactly one of the major problems our race is facing. It is okay to increase your home AC by 2 degrees, but did you know that if the Earth's temperature rises 2 degrees more, the environmental damage will be irreversible, which drives the entire human race towards extinction. This is our Earth giving us a final warning. If nothing is done, this is it. We would have passed the point of no return. The doomsday clock will strike, and it's the final minute, and that will be the end of all of us. So what can be done, you may ask, or even yet, who is this man on stage telling me about the Earth? Well, my name is Arthur Lam, and I've been trying to make an impact to the world for the last 15 years. Coming from a mechanical engineering background, I actually started my career in finance. However, I realized my job was to try to help or persuade people to move money from one account to another. Then I decided to look for something more tangible. But please don't get me wrong, finance is still a very reputable industry. Without it, I probably won't be standing on stage right now. So back then, I was already well aware of this concept of supply and demand, that as global populations soar, natural resources would dwindle and energy costs would go up. And that will put energy efficiency in the front and center, which is why I felt clean tech sector is a perfect fit for me. That was when I co-founded a company called Synergy that rents out energy-efficient LED lights back in 2008. It was called Energy Saving as a Service. We have since expanded our operation to 12 countries around the globe, promoting the concept of energy efficiency to the world. Well, there were mostly developing countries, including South Africa, where I had an episode of carjacking, and that was really fun. I always ask myself if I would do it again, risking my life, trying to make an impact. However, as I've been working among these countries, I realized that there are a lot of problems, and I've come across with most of them, and the lack of ESG has becoming alarmingly evident. For those who are not familiar with this term, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, and refers to the 3 key factors that measures the environmental, ethical impact, and its governance to ensure the sustainability of the business or the company. Most socially responsible investors now check companies out using ESG criteria to screen their investments. So why is this important? If we look at this by numbers, ESG and sustainable investing are projected to increase at a rapid rate in the future. By 2025, it is expected that around 33% of global assets under management would have ESG mandates. Between 2018 to 2036, the industry is predicted to grow 43%, leading to a significant growth of $160 trillion. The sad reality is, a lot of companies have yet to adhere to ESG. For example, people still see recycling as a gimmick, and it is okay still to use child labor. In other words, company makes money, but how a company conducts its business is not entirely transparent. That is a global problem. We all went through the financial crisis in 2008, and cost-cutting has been all the rage. However, this has led to a downward spiral for our environmental and social impact. This is actually one of the reasons why I started Negawatt, a property tech company based in Hong Kong. At Negawatt, we keep innovating technology to understand people better under the built environment. After all, we spend 90% of our time inside a building where I think people is the greatest asset, not the land or the building. With IoT and big data, it allowed us to enhance building automation to drive sustainability and resilience. We strive to better utilize and manage building resources as we enter the new age of digital age. We know those companies that claim they're environmental friendly, but there's nothing to back it up. We're working now to decentralize sustainability, making information transparent for the stakeholders. This approach has been proven successful in assisting our clients on their net zero carbon initiatives and derive new revenue. But like all global cities, it hasn't been easy for Hong Kong. Let's look at environment for a start. We have continued to face problems such as rising temperatures and extreme weather phenomena. Super typhoons such as Mangkhut practically brought the city to a standstill a few years ago. As recent as July, our city has set a new record of number of consecutive days of temperature above 30 degrees Celsius. These are all closely linked to the effects of climate change. Human activities, in particular, burning of fossil fuels, such as coal and gas, deforestation, and animal husbandry, all have contributed to the increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration, resulting in a rise in global temperature. We now have experts warning us that without a substantial reduction in global greenhouse gas emissions in the next 20 to 30 years, it will be nearly impossible to achieve the important climate targets under the Paris Agreement, which is to limit the global warming temperature rise well below 2 degrees. I mentioned previously that we're now at the edge of point of no return. Therefore, as global citizens, Hong Kong must take timely actions to tackle carbon emission problem and mitigate the temperature rise to protect ourselves and our future generations. So what has been done so far? In 2020, President Xi Jinping made it very clear that China will do her part to achieve carbon emission peak before 2030 and carbon neutrality before 2060. It might sound like 2060 is quite a long time away. However, if you think about it, meeting these two carbon targets alone are very huge feats in themselves. Being the largest developing country in the world, China is constantly faced with the challenges of maintaining economic and social development, eradicating poverty, controlling pollution, and more. In these circumstances, it actually takes a titanic effort to meet a challenge like this. The government has therefore set up 10 specific areas to tackle this problem. I'm just going to name a few. Reducing the use of fossil fuels, promoting upgrading of industries, promote energy saving in low carbon buildings and infrastructure, develop green technology innovations and finance, policy reforms, and more. And here in Hong Kong, we have our own targets too. Back in 2019, electricity generation was the largest source of carbon emissions, accounting for about 2/3 of total emissions in Hong Kong, followed by transportation and waste. As Hong Kong strives to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, we must all formulate a proactive, forward-looking, and targeted decarbonization strategy, and strive to encourage the participation of an entire community. To progress towards a net zero emissions future, Hong Kong has planned and is taking accelerated actions now. It needs to adapt a significant, more aggressive decarbonization target with annual reduction of 6.6% beginning immediately and continuing through 2050. And this is where we can come in. The greatest way to reduce emission from improving electricity generation, making buildings more efficient, and increasing the sustainability of mobility, and as a whole, we can collaborate. Do you know that buildings account for about 90% of Hong Kong total electricity consumption, and over 60% of our carbon emission is attributable to generating electricity for our buildings? With the implementation of various energy-saving measures, it is estimated that about 2.1 billion kilowatt-hour of electricity was conserved in 2020 as compared with 2015, which is about 4.7% reduction, and about 1.5 million tons of carbon emission were reduced. These were basically achieved by improving energy efficiency and holding companies accountable to the actions. There are now regulations regarding energy efficiency standards in buildings, such as air conditioning, lighting, electrical insulation, lifts, escalators, and more. Speaking of people and holding companies accountable, there are a lot of social aspects happening around the world that is detrimental to the ESG concept. I have seen firsthand in several countries how people still use cheap labor and other inhumane social practices to achieve growth, or how they use damaging practices to the environment to conduct business. There is simply no governance whatsoever. You might say that people don't know better, or they don't have the power to change for the situation, which is why we should make our voices heard with the leaders and those decision makers. Going green is not enough. We have to be sustainable. ESG is not a new concept. We simply need to make them see the benefits of ESG. I'll use Hong Kong as an example one more time. We've been a safe haven for investors for decades, as Hong Kong boasts a stable financial and legal system. It proves our city that we are always the obvious place to lead the world in many aspects. However, it is no secret that Hong Kong has lagged behind a few other cities that a few years in terms of legislation and technology adoption, which is why this is our chance to leapfrog back to the top and set a perfect example to the world that we are more than capable to lead in sustainability performances. In order to achieve this, a net zero emission economy is the best way to go. It would provide Hong Kong with a cleaner, greener, and healthier environment and yield substantial economic and social benefits. Projected reduction in air pollutants would increase life expectancy to the equivalent of about 26,000 lives saved by 2050, with accumulative economic benefits that could amount to 460 billion Hong Kong dollars. So how can we attribute it to this big picture? I'm not going to bore you to tell you you must fly less or cut down meat. I'm sure you heard it all. Well, when you think about it, it's actually against human nature to be sustainable. It is completely natural and understandable to turn on the AC when it's 35 degrees out. But what I'm suggesting is to limit the use or change your habits in a way that it doesn't compromise your lifestyle or collaboratively save our planet in the process. Do you know that Spain now has banned people from setting their AC below 27 degrees and heating above 90 degrees? This is just one example of how Europe is trying to save energy. The thing is, climate change kills. It kills people, as we have seen. It also kills our ecosystem, our biodiversity, and also destroys the things that we society hold dear: our homes, our houses, our businesses, our livestock, and our future. Sustainability, renewable energy, and energy efficiency are some of the few industries that can ensure the continuity of existence. To be honest, we do not need to quantify the potential market size to justify our effort to provide a more sustainable future for our next generation. Every nation and business leaders has pledged to work collaboratively, trying to undo the harm that we have done in the planet for the last few centuries. As a result, carbon management are always in demand, and once you get yourself into it, you're practically halfway there. At the end of the day, it's about everyone's interest. ESG wasn't in place because the companies, government, and everyday citizens don't have the interests aligned. And I think one of the reasons why it didn't work before, because people underestimate the importance of ESG. According to research, global ESG assets are on track to exceed $53 trillion by 2025, representing more than a third of 140 trillion mark in projected total assets under management. The economic benefits reaped from ESG is huge. If that incentive isn't enough, then the fact that climate change will kill us all if we don't do anything should be a good enough excuse to get our act together. Simply put, without ESG, the world dies, and we shouldn't go down this way when we hold the answer to the key to our survival. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you will think differently when you're about to switch on your AC at home. Thank you very much.